Everyone's talking about a slow real estate market, but is the Metro Vancouver Detached segment quietly stabilizing while everything else sits on the sidelines? Well, May's numbers tell a more interesting story than the headlines would suggest. Sales are up a bit, prices are ticking higher month over month, and certain neighborhoods are starting to pull away from the pack. Now, here's the full breakdown. And by the way, my name is Valera. I'm with eXp Realty, and every week I work with people just like you who are ready to make their next move in real estate. And they reach out because they want someone who actually knows this market from the ground up. So, if you like a private, no pressure conversation about what you're looking to do and how I can help make your transition as smooth as possible, I'd love to connect. Feel free to call or text me at the number on your screen or click the Calendly link in the description to book a time that works for you. I'll walk you through exactly what your next move is going to look like and how to make it a right one. All right, so let's just dive right into these numbers and show you exactly what was going on in the month of May. So we call this the quiet hold. We've gone up in the detached segment 0.4%. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a big jump, but when you compare it to the townhouse segment and the apartment segment, like look at townhomes, they're down 1.3%, right? And you look at the apartments, condos, they're down 7.2%. And that doesn't surprise me at all. There are a saturation of condos in Metro Vancouver. There's that much more competition and choices for any buyer. And it doesn't surprise me that the detached market has gone up, has had positive growth because there's not as many detached homes on the market as there would be condos. And these are the four market indicators that they're four of a few, but these are the main market indicators that we are focused on. Inventory, HPI price, home price index, that is, days on market, and the closed sales. Those are the four pillars. Looking at homes for sale. In the month of May, there were 6,294 homes for sale. Going back to December 2025, 6 months back, it was as low as 4,671 homes. So it's climbed up, and every month it's been climbing up progressively to where we are right now, or in the month of May, 6,294. When you look at May of this year, going back 1 year to May of 2025, it's actually a 7.5% decrease. So meaning there was that much more inventory last year at the same time period. Looking at the HPI benchmark price, right now we're sitting at 1,847,900. Going back 6 months to December 2025, that number was higher. You can see on the graph here that it shows that it was 1,880,000. Come January, it's been fluctuating up and down every single month to where we are right now, which is 1,848,900. That said, if you look at the benchmark price in May of this year compared to May of last year, it's actually gone down as well. It's gone down 6.9%, meaning the HPI price or benchmark price of a detached home 1 year ago was 6.9% higher than it is this year. Time to sell. How long has it been taking properties to actually get on the market? Well, not on the market, I should say, get off the market sold, from the time that they're listed. So 38 days in the month of May, that's on average. Going back to December, it was 59 days and higher in January. And it doesn't quite surprise me, just after the holidays, Christmas, and, getting into the new year, sales immediately the first few weeks to a month are a little bit on the slower side. And as you can see with the graph, things are starting to trend downwards. That's days on market are trending downwards, which means that properties are selling a little bit faster. So you go from a high of 61 days in January to a low of 38 days in May. Now, that said, it's 38 days in the month of May of 2026. 1 year ago, this is 18.8% higher than it was 1 year ago. 1 year ago, it was 32 days. That was the average days on market in May of 2025. Sales activity, number of sales, right? And this is completed detached transactions month over month. Last month, in the month of May, there were 663 detached homes that had sold. Going back to December 2025, you can see there was 433, and it dropped dramatically in January to 301, and it's been climbing ever since. And April and May are about the same. You can see 661 in April, 663 in May. So it's heading in the right direction with respect to how many properties are on the market, and well, more so how many properties are coming off the market sold, right? And sales volumes are up 1.1% year over year. So going back to May of last year, 2025, there were 654 sales. And this year, there are 663 sales that have been recorded. Now, where are we? Who, in the sense of what kind of market are we in, detached wise, and who has the leverage? Well, the sales to actives ratio is 10.5%. And as you can see in the slide here, if it's, you're in buyer's territory, well, we're in buyer's territory. So let's just call it how it is, because we're less than 12%, right? If it's 12 to 19%, you're in a balanced market situation. And if you're 20% and higher, you're in a seller's market. So this is still good for buyers, any buyer who's looking to make a move, right? You can see that going back to December, I mean, everything from December onwards till where we were at last month, everything has been in buyer's territory. However, what I can say is that, say, March, April, and May, which is kind of expected because it is the spring market, that number has been climbing towards a balanced market situation as we're getting closer to the 12%. That said, we are still sitting below 12%, so it's buyer's market. Fresh supply. How many new listings hit the market in the month of May? There was 2,064. So now going back to December, there was 547 new listings to hit the market in December 2025 during the holiday season. As soon as January hit, it went up over 1,000. And it's been pretty much going up ever since. Well, April had the highest, going back 6 months, had the highest amount of inventory hit the market. And it dropped down a little bit in May. So, looking at May of 2025, there was 2,327 new listings last year compared to this year. So there's less inventory year over year, right? But dramatically higher when you go back 6 months. It is kind of expected though, because a lot of people have hesitation about putting their properties on the market during the holiday season. But if you think about it, that would have been a great time to put your home in the market because there's far less competition, right? Now, the supply runway. How many months of inventory do we have? We have about 9.5 months worth of inventory. If you look at, going back 6 months to December 2025, it's not that far off. It was 10.8 months, but it was dramatically higher in the month of January. And that, again, is expected because whatever inventory spilled over from last year into this year and new inventory that also came on the market in the same time period in January, that wasn't moving as fast. And so there was a lot of, there would have been several months at the rate that the sales were occurring. There was a number of months where of inventory that was left. But that being said, looking at March, April, and May, it's been hovering very close to one another. So there's about, 9.7 months of inventory in March, 9.1 in April, and 9.5 in May. So it's been relatively stable over this last few months. Now, these properties, these are the ones that have expired. These are the ones that didn't sell for one reason or the next. And in the month of May, there was 274 properties that came off the market unsold. One could look at these properties as being off-market opportunities. In some cases, there are those situations, and in some cases, they're not. Now, if you go back to the month of December, there was 441 properties that came off the market that didn't sell, and there was a dramatic jump in January. It happens just about every year, but in the month of January, there was an increase, like an influx of expired listings. Again, this happens every year. But then if you, fast forward to February, March, April, and May, the hovering in the 200s, low 200s in Feb and March, and higher, and of course in April, and where we're at a little bit on the high side in the month of May, right? And if you go back 1 year, right, going back to May of 2025, you see, okay, so we had 274 listings that come off the market this May. Well, last May, this is up from last May, which had 231. So there was an 18.6% increase in the amount of properties that didn't sell or came off the market and expired this year versus last year. Right. Now, looking at the most seller-friendly markets, right? So we're looking at Ladner being in first place. It had 2.6% growth. That's an increase in the HPI price month over month. So Ladner had 2.6%. Tawasin, which is Ladner's neighbor, had 2.5%. Then you skip across the pond and you go to West Vancouver and you had 2%. Dramatically different markets, but very similar with respect to the growth that they experienced. So again, Ladner in first place, Tawasin in second place, West Vancouver in third place. And again, this is in the month of May. Now, the most buyer-friendly markets. So let me go back for 1 second. From the seller-friendly markets, meaning sellers had a good advantage selling in these markets, in Ladner, Tawasin, and West Vancouver. Now, this is where the buyers have the advantage. The most buyer-friendly markets in the Metro Vancouver area. For first place, it's Maple Ridge because the HPI price went down 2.1%. Second place is New Westminster, and it's because, price went down 1.9%. And Vancouver East, as in East Vancouver, stand up. That went down 1.5%. So if you were looking to buy in any one of those markets, you're going to have a bit more of an advantage price-wise. Perhaps, of course, on the negotiation side, and maybe because there could be an influx of inventory in those areas that have caused this kind of a price drop. But at any rate, buyers in these areas have been in a situation that it was more favorable for buyers. Let's just put it that way. But generally speaking, who does this market favor? And it's buyers. The metrics are still pointing to the buyer, right? 10.5% sales to actives ratio and 9.5 months of inventory. It's keeping buyers in the driver's seat. That said, with prices ticking up month over month and days on market dropping, the window is gradually narrowing. Anyone with a clear plan and the right expectations can make a great move on either side. If today's numbers gave you something to think about, whether you're buying, selling, or just watching the market, let's talk. A 15-minute conversation could save you months of guessing. Call or text me at 778-318-2883 or scan the QR code on your screen to book directly. And if you found this helpful, hit subscribe. I'll be dropping a fresh market update every month so you're never in the dark. See you next month.